Civility is always in style. We are so glad that you've joined us today. This is Sunday, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to, during this football season, to think about a whole lot of other things besides sports. We're going through some COVID challenges. We're going through difficulty with the economy. There are a lot of challenges out there. But, sports sometimes gives you an outlet from that. And then for me, church is such an important part of who I am and what my life is all about. And I've been very blessed to be in some great churches and to spend time with some really good people. Today, our guest is going to be Dale Oquist, who is the senior pastor at People's Church here in Fresno, right there at Cedar and Herndon. And we're going to get to talk about a number of things. In case you missed it, by the way, yesterday we had Jim Yovino, Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, on. You can go to Spotify, and all you got to do is plug in on the question there, Powell to the People, and you know what? You can hear every one of our broadcasts at your leisure, which is really a cool thing. You can also catch us on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You name it, we're everywhere. But also, Good News with Larry Powell is now on Spotify as well. So if you miss a good news story and you want to be encouraged, you can catch it on KXEX 1550 AM at 10 and 4 Monday through Friday, or you can go to Spotify and hear it at your leisure. So we're really glad that you're a part of what's going on here at KXEX. But I've got with me my good friend and pastor, Dale Oquist from People's Church. Well, welcome aboard, Dale. I'm glad to have you here.
My, oh my, look at this. Your Major Diggs here, and you're doing this right, aren't you?
Hey, I'll tell you what, we're really fortunate at People's Church. We've got a studio there as well.
Yes, we do.
Is state-of-the-art, got everything going, and it was really helpful during COVID because we had so many things to produce, from 18 videos a week almost to, every kind of thing you could imagine, just trying to stay connected with folks and things. But, how long now have you been pastor? I know the answer to this, but how long have you been pastor at People's Church?
It'll be 12 years, March 1st.
Wow. 12 years. For folks in the community, it goes really fast. How has it gone for you? And I got a question for you. What did you think of Fresno when you first arrived here?
Well, I had fresh eyes when I came to Fresno.
Yeah.
And so didn't have any of the filters or the lenses that people see Fresno through. And so we love Fresno from the very beginning and love the atmosphere. Obviously, there's a sense of the Midwest here because of the Dust Bowl and the like, and so therefore the people,
California Bible Belt,
right? Yeah. And if there is such a thing, and so we found it a great place. We found it the people are incredible, as you know,
Yep.
as I know, and obviously you're part of that. The people that are listening are part of that. It's been an incredible experience for us, and we've loved it from day one, and don't like it when anyone bashes our city. Don't like that at all.
I love it. And, you followed an icon here in town.
Really? Who was that?
Yeah, G.L. Johnson, who was pastor at People's for a long time. Good friend of mine, knew him for a long time. And I know anytime you go from an icon to a new person coming in, there are a lot of challenges. But I've got to tell you, the way you've faced those and the way the church is now, it's fun what God does, because it was a great run while G.L. Johnson was pastor.
Yes. Incredible.
And some of the things he did help set up for where we are today. But it's amazing where we're going today and the way we're serving the community and trusting the Lord in everything that comes our way. And you have become such an established part of what takes place in Fresno now.
Thankfully, by the grace of God.
Yeah, and that's true for all of us, But I know that I want to share with the folks, you're a sports fan.
Yes, I am.
You and I both love sports, and now your favorite team in the NFL happens to have a quarterback that comes from California.
Yes,
so
he does.
Have you ever been to a Packers game?
Have I? No, it's that's not a good question.
Okay.
You need to learn how to ask this question from a guy from Wisconsin. It's how many Packer games have you been to?
So what is Lambeau Field really like? We hear a lot about it.
I've been to Wrigley Field. I've been by Fenway Park. It is the Wrigley, the Fenway of the NFL. It's an incredible, iconic place. I've had the privilege of, when we lived in Wisconsin, happened to know the general manager's assistant. Yeah. And so because of that, we got a tour, got to go in the locker room because of a connection with a pastor I used to work for, Arnie Jacobson. Then he pastored in Green Bay. And because of that, I got to know Reggie White. Who was
an amazing guy.
Yeah. And who was big without his pads on.
Yes.
and did some men's conferences with him. And all that to say is so I've been in the locker room. I've been in the locker room when players were in there. I've been on the field. It's just one of those places
I'm
that
jealous.
if you're a sports person, you got to go at least one time. And I recommend you go when it's cold.
Yeah. I'm afraid my brace would freeze up or something. But it is an amazing place. And then Aaron Rodgers, who is from California, played at Berkeley, and an amazing athlete, probably going to be the MVP this year. At least has a really good shot at it.
Sure looks like it.
Yeah, and has led his team and he took over from someone who was an icon as well.
Think of that. Since the 90s, we've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back.
Amazing. Now, I think I remember you in a 49er and a Green Bay Packer jersey that was sewn together or something one time.
That can't be true.
Well, I know you now appreciate some California teams as well.
Of course, yes. And even as passionate as I may be about Wisconsin sports, because that's where I grew up.
Right.
Still have roots there. And my dad and mom, they were people that they may travel, but they're always going to go back to Wisconsin.
Yes.
But all that to say is that when we're here, the last thing I'm going to do is bash the 49ers or bash the Dodgers or the Giants.
Only in
jest. Right. Because the fact that I understand that passion.
Yes.
And there are equally passionate people about the sports teams, local sports teams. Now, I am a Fresno State Bulldogs fan.
Yes, absolutely. And, you've made a really good connection with Fresno State as well.
Yes.
And so has People's Church, because we've been kind of a home for some of the players and a place for them to come that are out of town. They can come and worship, and they can spend time with people and be taken care of and feel like family even when there's no family around.
Yes.
So that's really a neat thing. I know you also like the Wisconsin Badgers. You like the Milwaukee Brewers and the Milwaukee Bucks. And, so you are a full Wisconsinite.
Yeah, Wisconsin et al.
Yeah. I hear you. Well, you grew up in an amazing family with your mom and dad.
Yeah.
And I had the same good fortune that I grew up with a dad and mom that cared deeply, helped direct where I needed to be going, gave me insights that basically put me where I am today.
Right.
And I know you recently lost your dad and your mom.
Yeah.
And
lost them both in 2021.
Yeah, just crazy times. Not to COVID, but they had a car accident. But it's amazing when the generation that is no more.
Right.
And now you are that generation that your kids begin to look up to in a whole different way.
Right. I remember my dad, I even said at his funeral, I said, I was proud one day when I said, "Yeah, Dad, I worked a 12-hour day." And he goes, "So it means you worked a half day."
Oh, I love it.
It's that generation.
No, exactly. And then I worked at Swift & Company for my dad when I was in college, and it made me want to be in college because I tucked turkeys. So 26,000, and I did every fourth bird. Wow. So if you want that butterball look, that's what we did. So I get it. And Dad had the amazing ability to be focused all the time on what was important in life and for family, and he never missed an event I was in. So that was unique. And Mom is still with me, 97 years old, loves the Lord, and just an amazing person. So I was very, very blessed to have that. But I'll tell you what, he put a lot of kids through college and want them to get a college degree by working at Swift & Company. So we learned a lot from him during that time. Well, we've had a lot of challenges in the last 24 months here, not only in Fresno but in the nation, and we're getting close to the end of our first segment here. But you came to Fresno, you got into the community very quickly. You made People's Church a place where people could come no matter what their walk of life was, and I don't think people understand that we are a very diverse community.
Very diverse. Yes.
I know at one of our Christmas programs, I was looking at the number of kids up there, and 52%, I did this count, 52% of them were minority kids. We're a place open to everybody, and we're wanting to serve everybody. And one of the things we want to talk about in just a few minutes is this is our city, and some of the decisions that had to be made when, hey, you got to close down, came to us, and we thought, okay, we'll handle this 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And the next thing we knew, we were closed down for almost a year.
Right.
And yet we still had to serve our community. So you're going to hear a lot more from Pastor Dale Oakless from People's Church. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
It does.
3 of those. So we'll go right into it.
On the best talk in town.
Hey,
here's Larry Powell.
This is Larry, and you're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. And we've got with us today.
You always do that voice.
You got to go with the voice. You as a pastor, one of the things I appreciate about you.
Where civility is always in style.
And one of the things I've liked about you is you are an actor up there too, as a pastor, and it really connects with people, so it's really,
your producers
really
are nodding, saying, yeah, that's exactly right.
Jose's got 2 thumbs up over there. It's amazing when you think about how does a church, which is supposed to serve a community, and we're open not just on Sundays, but we have multiple days, multiple events, multiple things going on. We're always looking for ways to serve our community.
Yes.
So COVID hits, and I remember, we're talking, and I'm on staff there as well as a pastor, but with you. But I can remember our staff meeting, and we're going, okay, it looks like we're going to have to close down for 3 or 4 weeks, maybe at the most, maybe 2.5. And so, folks, here's what we're going to have to do. And we're getting ready for this, and then boom, all of a sudden we're down for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and it just keeps going. But the needs in the community don't stop. The fact that we want to share the love of Jesus with folks, that doesn't stop. So we had to pivot in a lot of ways. What were your thoughts at that moment? 2 weeks turns into a year almost.
Well, as you said, my thoughts were immediately short term.
Right.
But then they became when we had to go long term. The first thought we had, thankfully, is what can we do here? What are the opportunities that are going to be available to us that would not otherwise be available?
Right.
What are the doors that are open that we can walk through that this moment affords us?
And what doors might we open?
Right, exactly.
That aren't open.
Because you can panic in that moment.
Yes.
Or you can see things from a different vantage point.
Yep.
You can have faith or fear in these moments.
Yes.
And so obviously many faith organizations, churches, or even other businesses that needed to communicate, we were already set as far as online presence, as far as putting on video, putting on an online streaming. We were already doing that.
And you got a great team.
Yes.
That can do that.
And we were able to help other churches do the same thing.
Yep.
With equipment and the like, with our studio and some of our camera equipment. We were able to help other churches get online, which is great, which is one of the opportunities. And then, because of our staff being the same mentality of let's look for opportunities, that's when we started to see that there were possibilities of being in our community.
Right.
And in our case, it was on a nightly basis during the week, Monday through Friday, 5 nights a week. And it turned into from one Highway City location to 5 locations of feeding people.
Right.
5 nights a week, hot meals.
And you know what? The last count I had, it's probably above this, was 1 million hot meals that were served during COVID to communities that were in desperate need. And we didn't make them just come to the church to get it.
We never, we had, unless there was a big event. We had a big event. We had feeding families, but whatever else. On a nightly basis, we were in the community.
And we had 300 plus volunteers, which really, it takes you from a sit and soak person in a church to a stand up and go. And I saw a growth in some of our folks that was just amazing. Yeah. And we also got to see our community and what was needed out there. And I think we ended up in, went from 5 to 6 to 7 different locations, big apartment complexes, big little communities that needed big help.
Yep.
And a lot of things like that. But one of the things you did that I thought was so unique is you said to people, let's think outside the box. And out of that came a thing called This Is My City.
I love my city.
Yeah, I love my city. So tell us more about that.
Well, in light of what we saw as obviously the one of the needs in our community during this time, and the hot meals that we provided, that then turned into and birthed because of our team and their creativity and their ability to see the opportunities that I always love the phrase, I love my city.
Right.
And so in light of that, because of the fact that I want to get that mentality of we love our city.
Yes.
We don't hate our city. We're, whatever else I'm assigned here, God has assigned me to be in this city. So therefore I'm going to love this city.
Yes.
Right. And again, it's not hard for me to do, but whatever else, we want to get that mindset out. And because until you love, you're probably not going to reach out. Until you love, you're not going to help.
No, exactly.
And so when you start to love your city, you're going to help your city.
Now, that wasn't in the budget.
No, that was the amazing thing, right? We had no money in the budget for it, and yet we had plenty of funding, because obviously funding follows vision.
Yes.
And we had this idea. That idea turned into a plan, and that plan turned into a vision, and that vision turned into a ministry, which today is called I Love My City, which is still going strong on a weekly basis on our campus. We have obviously taken dedicated spaces now on our campus to I Love My City, so that people, like even for food, people they can shop for clothes, they can shop for food,
right,
and get help in other ways.
It's amazing because that pivot changed us from just a location where people came to worship and to spend time together, which was really valuable, needed, a good thing to do, to we're bringing other folks to the community, from the community to the church for meeting their needs, even ongoing after all of the things we did changed, and they're now coming in droves to get help. And we did not only clothes and food, but emotional care as well.
Yes.
Because this was a tough, COVID was a tough thing for families and still is.
Right.
Very, very big challenge.
And if we can translate a church ministry into a believer's lifestyle,
yes,
that's really the goal. Meaning, we have abilities for people to help others, but then those are at certain times.
Yes.
But then those very people now go and they're an army in their neighborhoods. So that's really it's church ministry is beyond church ministry. It's got to turn into the lifestyles of the very believers that are at those events, because those ministry events turn into lifestyles and mentalities and mindsets that it doesn't stop when the event ends.
Corporate became personal.
Exactly.
And institutional became personal, that I have a responsibility to do something special for my community. And we've heard stories, it's kind of fun to see what happens. We've heard stories about lives that were changed, impacted by our stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit to be into the community and help folks. That was really rewarding to hear about people being changed.
That is the reward.
Yeah, just amazing. So I was also thinking about how tough COVID was, because we couldn't do funerals during that time. And, one of the things we do as pastors is we reach out to families and and often couldn't even get into a hospital,
right,
or a facility where somebody was going through a really tough thing, whether it was just a normal operation where we would often go and pray for them, or they were dying and their family couldn't get in, we couldn't get in. That was a tough time.
And remember, you were part of this as well, that we as People's Church, and of course, the scope of our congregation is pretty large, but we had every staff member calling, and we did this, did we do it 3 or 4 times?
Yeah, 4 times.
During this time, we called everybody personally, and talked to them. And
that's 9,000 on the database at the
time. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and making sure that they knew that we cared about them and what can we do for them. And obviously that turned into some incredible conversations.
It really was. I can remember one of them that I had. And remember, folks, we're given a list of maybe 200 calls for that day, and we may or may not know them. So we're making a cold call in a lot of ways, but just to encourage people. I can remember making a call to someone who ended up...
Larry, let's sit this way. Larry Powell cannot make a cold call.
No, that's probably true. That's probably true. In fact, I made 300 of them a day. But I can remember a family in Reedley, and I called, and they said, "Oh, we're not attending the church anymore." But you know what? When I asked them, "Well, is there something I can pray with you about?" They said, "Yeah, you know, our newborn is in the hospital and is not expected to live." And it was interesting how God provided opportunities for us as we're making these calls to folks we may or may not know. You know, and with as many people as we have at People's Church, you don't know everybody. You know folks in your sector and, you know, that you're serving. But it was amazing. And they said, "We can't believe you're calling us right now when we really need it." And that story was not just my story, but you know, we often did a recap, you know, when we got to our staff meetings. What did you hear recently? What was a story you have? And it was story after story of people in need who were feeling isolated and separate, and that nobody cared about them. And they got a phone call from a pastor saying, "How can I pray for you today during this cold COVID, you know, time?"
And all of a sudden, God's timing is perfect for people.
It really is, really is. And those stories were pretty amazing. Folks, we're going to be right back. We're coming to the end of our second segment, but we're with Pastor Dale Oakless from People's Church here in Fresno, and you're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down. This is Powell to the People.
Man,
goes fast.
Yeah.
The people on the best talk in town.
Hey, you're back with Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. And you know, that bumper music, by the way, is Mark Lowry, who I mean, some things never change. Usually has a connotation of, oh man, some things never change, but you know, God's love and faithfulness never changes. So that's what we're talking about with Powell to the People. And we've got with us today Pastor Dale Oquist from People's Church. And Dale, we've been enjoying a good conversation about how the church has had to step up in a whole different way during COVID, but we didn't retreat. We advanced during that time. And now we're going through another shift. You know, and there's always the political pressure of, do you close down? Do you open up? You know, there are a lot of battles that go on. How did People's Church look at all of this as we were navigating our way through the unknown?
We looked at it different from other churches, and in the same, you know, some churches looked at it the same way we did, and because
some called us and said, "What are you doing?"
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously, even in our very city, where all these pastors get along, and we have a great coalition and collaboration and clusters of pastors, unlike maybe probably any community I know.
Right.
But even in that, there were churches that had different and differing mindsets as it relates to this.
Right.
So we just had to go with how we have all, our vision statement is helping people see God and participate in his redemptive story.
Yes.
So the first thing we want to do is we want to help people see who God is through what we do.
And when they see God, their circumstances change because God is in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we wanted first and foremost, we wanted our vision to be known. Our vision guides us. It's not just a statement. It's not just something we plaster up and just don't think about. It is a guiding statement for us, helping people see God.
Right.
And by helping them see God, then they will participate in his redemptive story, which is, it was a statement that we came up with over a year and a half process. So it's a guiding statement. All that to say that when we faced COVID, okay, what can we do to help people see God in the midst of this?
Right.
And so we're a church that says, you know what, we're going to honor our city officials, our mayor, and the mandates of our county. And our state. That doesn't have any reflection on whether we agree with their politics or not. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But we're gonna go with, that's going to be a baseline, if you will. Maybe we're not going to follow everything to the letter of the law, but to the spirit of that law.
Yes.
That's what we're going to do. And because Larry, as you know, and I'm gonna preach to the choir now, but the fact is that as a church, still, yes, we care for our people, but ultimately, we care for those who have yet to experience the love of God.
Yes, yes.
And when we think in terms of ourselves and what we want to do as a church and what we're going to demand that we do as a church, I feel like that makes a statement. And I've been probably for over a year now been saying I believe that although I believe that the church has benefited from COVID in the fact that it forced us to do things that we otherwise were not forced to do.
We're in the community in a different way.
Right. We have to be the church, which is not a building.
Yes, yes.
It's, build it and they will come. That's not the church. The church is people, and it's developing people. And you can do that in so many different ways without meeting. We learned at churches, every church learned for the most part, that you can still thrive as a church without meeting on Sundays, although you want to and you need to.
Right.
But when you couldn't, you learn these things. But all that to say is that in this process, we wanted to make sure that everything we did reflected our love for our community, our love for people, whether they agree with us or not, but we want to make sure. And so if that means whether we want to wear masks or not, Jesus said, right? Did Jesus not say, if they ask you to walk 1 mile, walk 2.
Yep.
So if they, and again, kind of my mentality is if they ask you to wear 1 mask, wear 2 masks. Meaning go the extra mile.
Yes.
And you show them you love them, because I do believe that the way some churches responded has made it more difficult to lead someone into faith or show them the love of God than it's harder today than it was before COVID because of the animosity, the angst that people have toward churches because of maybe their response in the midst of this.
Well, and it brings us back to the civility issue.
Right.
Especially as believers who love the Lord, how do we show civil behavior at a time when the world is not civil?
Right.
And I think that was really an important part of what we were saying.
Yes.
Is we welcome everybody here. Come to church. We're going to be there for you. And if you have a different way of looking at things than we do right now, come anyway.
Right.
And our leadership and staff, a lot of them, they'll wear the mask, and the mask, as we've often said, isn't to protect the mask wearer. It's a message to other folks saying, we care about you as a community, and part of our vision statement.
Right. What I did not like even in People's Church was the bullying that took place.
Happens everywhere, yes.
Among adults, of saying people were wearing masks and they were being bullied for wearing a mask, or they weren't wearing a mask, and they were being bullied for not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And as you know, we addressed it in our faith family to say that's not going to be what we're not going to do that. That's not going to be here. That's not what we're about. We're unified with Jesus.
Yep.
Jesus is the common ground for us, and we may have different views on this, but we don't want bullying in our schools.
No.
As the superintendent yesterday was talking about, he didn't talk about it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But whatever else, we don't want bullying in our churches either.
Yeah.
And so even though we have differing ideas, that doesn't mean we don't have a commonality and a unity together.
No, exactly. And, I started this whole program, Powell to the People, with Jim Cece, and we talked about civility.
I love Pastor Jim.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And we talked about civility and how we've lost it in a lot of ways because people have become so passionate about a position that they forgot the person.
Right.
We've tried to bring back, hey, let's focus on the person. Let's focus on Jesus, but let's focus on the person that's in our churches or that is in our community or is next door. And let's have some conversations where we can disagree, but still like each other.
Please.
Please.
Yes.
And that's a message you have been giving out from the beginning of this whole adventure we've been on.
Right.
Is you can't stop serving or liking people.
Yeah. And because if we do, if we all of a sudden now start to view people differently because they think differently than we do, then we've lost our ability to have influence on the world. John chapter 17, Jesus says 3 things. In John chapter 17, the prayer that he prays for his disciples. The first is, you're still in the world.
Yes.
Number 2, you are not like the world. You're not of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You are different than the world. You're in the world. You're not like the world. You have to impact the world is the third thing he said.
Yeah.
And so if all of a sudden we start viewing people differently, and again, the whole idea and the concepts that now we look down on those people that don't think the same way we do.
Yeah.
If that's the case, we're as churches, if we do that, we're in trouble because
we've
now all of a
killed
sudden
our mission.
We have destroyed, we have eliminated the very mission of God.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I call it muffling the mission, and then the message. We've basically eliminated it, and it's too bad that it's gotten so much hatred, and even in the church world,
right,
we've had some sense of that at different times, and boy, shame on us, and so
yes, I agree.
Stepping up to say, hey, people come at it from all different points of view. Let's listen.
Right.
Because as we listen, we might be able to find some common ground to talk about some things and help people get a different trajectory in life.
If wearing a mask to a person, and if I'm in the community and wearing a mask is going to allow me to speak the truth and the love of God to somebody, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to wear a mask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It's not that big. It's, Paul says, I'm free to do anything. Right. 1 Corinthians 9:19.
Yes.
I'm free to do anything I want.
Yes.
But I will become a slave just so someone will know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I like about you is Starbucks. See, Starbucks is kind of your front porch of the church.
It's the well.
Yeah. So
not the church, the well, but
no,
the well, the water well, like
yes.
Jesus would go
absolutely,
to.
Where you go and meet the woman at the well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Each of us have places in our own lives where only we can impact somebody. And if we're not taking our sit and soak in the seat out to those places in the world, we've missed our entire mission, because it's not what happens in the church, it's what we do with what happens in the church as we go out into the world where we live.
Well, we are designed to do that.
Yes.
And if all we do, some studies have said that a new believer, within 3 to 5 years of them becoming a new believer, that they no longer have any friends outside of the church.
Wow.
And so that's not what we want. We want it. So we have to have those places. And I do, as you know, in my life, I have those deliberate intersections with the community and with people who don't go to People's Church, who
Yes.
are, who don't think like I do, who don't see like I see, who don't have a perspective, have a totally different worldview, but they're my friends. And we have, not only is it that my Starbucks is my place of civility, it's wonderful,
Yes.
but it's also a place of making sure that I see the way the world sees, and I can't get in, because the moment I get in, again, I thank God that He kind of put a Christian claustrophobia in me, meaning if I get around too many Christians, I just get claustrophobic, and I got to branch out, right? Bird dogs.
Yes.
Bird dogs. If you put them in a cage, they'll fight.
Yes.
They'll fight each other. They'll bicker, but if you get them out of the cage and do what they're supposed to be doing, they don't fight anymore.
No, I love
they do. They go get they do what they were designed by God to do.
Let's continue that thought right after our next. We're going to take a break here, folks. We'll be right back. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
Jose, if you'll put about 10 or 9 on that clock, thank you.
You have another one after this?
This is it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we got one to go.
But you're done for the day as well?
No, I've got another thing I'm doing. Yeah. Good news with Larry Powell. So, perfect.
People on the best talk in town.
Hey, folks, you're listening to Powell to the People, and I'll tell you what, this hour, Dale, every time this hour goes so fast, it's just crazy. We're with Pastor Dale Oakless from People's Church, and I can't believe, we're down to 8 minutes or so left, and we haven't covered anything yet.
I know, right? And again, the people that you get to talk to on this program it's got to feel the same way, just because you, all the interesting, powerful, influential, and intellectual guests that you have. It's I'm proud of you for doing this program. I think it's a great
thank you.
God idea.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun to get a chance to talk about civility, to talk about the Lord, to talk about how lives really can be, even in the face of COVID and all the craziness that's around us. Inflation. Everything that's taking place. I loved a series you did on fear versus faith.
Yeah.
And how important it is for our families to understand that when the Lord is in your life, you don't have to fear. That you can have faith that things are going to work out and turn out right.
Right. Yeah. So many times in Scripture, one of the most common command in Scripture is, do not be afraid.
Yeah, fear not.
Do not be afraid.
Yes.
Because fear is not our destiny. Fear, we cannot function properly. We can't function in our purpose.
Right.
We can't function in the Spirit, because fear will take all fear. That emotion will debilitate us. It will paralyze us.
Absolutely. It's one of those emotions that eliminates your ability to think, your ability to act. It puts you on a couch sleeping all the time. It separates you from people. You talk about COVID isolation. It isolates you in a different way. And,
right.
And it's so sad in families if there's fear, especially during the time of COVID when they've had to be together in cramped spaces often, and they're trying to survive. So, listen to a streaming from the church, get a word of encouragement.
That's it. And you know what? And that's a great point. And not just People's Church or a church, but
right.
but fill your mind with that which will encourage you and take you forward. That doesn't mean, saying don't be afraid doesn't mean be stupid.
Right.
It doesn't mean be careless.
Exactly.
It means, because obviously there's wisdom involved, but even wisdom cannot function with fear.
Not at all.
Because everything you're doing now is a protective device, a protective reaction to everything, and fear causes you to be reactive instead of proactive.
Exactly.
And so fill your mind, because you in times I don't care COVID times, non-COVID times, because COVID's not going away.
No.
You know, in all times, we have to be filling our minds with that which is going to take us forward. It's going to encourage us so that we walk in a sense of destiny. We walk in a sense of peace.
Yes.
We walk in this. We don't have, you know, because the three emotions that all go together are worry, and worry turns into anxiety, which turns into fear.
Yes. Yes.
And they're all the same. They're just experienced on different levels.
Exactly.
And you cannot function. You know, obviously, I always put it in the context of faith. But even in a person, you know, that is apart from faith and just is is a citizen in ours, you can't function right with fear, anxiety, and worry. You can't.
It's debilitating.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a spirit to it, and it's hard to be around that type of person.
You just finished a sermon series on peace.
Yes. I'm missing peace, but then I kept it going now in the new year.
Yes, and so we're still going. So, folks, if you go to peopleschurch.org, you can hear the sermon series of the last few months that are very encouraging. In fact, you've got them for the last several years.
Yes. Yeah.
People can, pick from a lot of things. Now, we know you like sports. We know you have a lot of passions and things, but one of the passions that I don't know if people know about with you is when you think about Teen Challenge and Convoy of Hope. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Convoy of Hope.
Okay, Convoy of Hope is an agency that is now an international agency. It started in Northern California. Hal Donaldson and his brothers just started distributing food, and now it has become a international,
multinational everywhere.
Amazing.
First in many cases.
Yes.
In disasters.
Disaster relief, as well as disaster relief, to give hope to people in the midst of a desperate situation. Whether that's feeding, I think they feed somewhere around 300,000 children a day around the world.
Wow. And
then also they are best known for, and that they don't necessarily want to be, but they're best known for their disaster relief. That when disaster hits, a lot of times they are positioned before that disaster even hits to bring food, water, and aid into that area, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a tornado, whether it's a tsunami, whatever it is, they've been there.
Yeah, and first in is and often last out.
Right.
It's what happens.
You say last out. A lot of times they never leave those areas, and they keep on ministering.
Keep serving. That's great.
Yes.
Folks, we've got a couple of minutes left, but I want to hear from Dale on Teen Challenge as well.
Teen Challenge is a scripture and discipleship based recovery program that we now they have 200 and some Teen Challenge chapters all around the world.
Yeah.
And we were instrumental, People's Church was, in bringing it to the Central Valley. It's now in Reedley, and it's incredible. It's been, their success rate is it's off the charts as far as helping people get out of life controlling issues.
Yes.
And so ours in Central Valley is a men's program, and it has become now in the court systems become a recommended
assigned to it as an option.
Instead of getting sentenced, you go to Teen Challenge. And so a Bible-based discipleship program that brings deliverance to people and transformation to lives. And so we're really excited about the fact that we've gotten to partner with them, and that we're, and they're all throughout California as well, but we're really excited about Teen Challenge.
They have a men's choir that we love to hear too. A lot of energy.
Yes.
Yeah. We're down to about a minute left, but Dale, what would you like to leave with our listeners with today?
The thing I'd like to leave with us today is that if we're going to walk apart from fear and into faith, if we're going to walk in strength and in purpose, it's going to be dependent on what we focus on and what our minds think about. He will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's how you think. It's how you think that will determine how you live.
Right.
How you think will determine how you live. And so Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, whatever is
Lovely,
pure,
good
lovely,
report.
pure.
Yep.
Think on these things.
Yeah. When our mind is set on that, peace comes in.
Supernaturally.
Yeah.
And so our minds, how you think is how you live. Make sure you think right.
I love it. Well, you've been listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. And Dale, Pastor Dale Oquist, People's Church, thank you for being
What a
part
joy.
of it.
What a joy. Thank you.
Enjoyed having you. We'll have to do this again.
All right.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Hi. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it's really fun. It's now on Spotify.
Yes.
You can get it
Yeah, I found it on Spotify.
So Powell to the People is on there, plus Good News with Larry Powell. So folks that are inspiring.
Yes.
So it's really, really good. Enjoying it a lot. Listen, I'm glad you had that.
Yes.
Thank you. But we'll have to do it again and put Brad together. Got to do another 20 minutes. All right.
Does make me think in terms of power staff members
Things that are going on. Yeah. Life.
but we also want to be a
Yes.
for Jason half hour.
Yeah.
You or me, you and me be the
Yeah. We got a lot of good people doing it. Love it. But right after staff, went in there and do it. Good to go on Wednesday. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right. All right.
All right, just give me a second while I save this.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah, just give me a second while I save all those two programs.
Gotcha.